What's up, guys? What is up? Welcome back to Deck Talk Podcast. And we've got one killer episode. If you might recognize the guy in the middle, we have had him on before when we were doing a remote live at the Hiwassee Bait and Marine. Um, but uh, but if you don't know, guys, I am Colin Burnett.
And I am Norman Lee. That's right, Colin. We have a heck of an episode tonight. But first, we got to talk about one of our sponsors for tonight's episode. This episode brought to you by YOLO Tech. You know what, guys? Here's the thing. You never know when it's going to happen. That fish of a lifetime comes up and just will destroy your bait. You will never miss another memory-making moment with YOLO Tech. No more changing batteries in your camera. Capture every memory. Capture every moment with YOLO Tech. Click the link in the description of this episode and make sure to use discount code DECKTALK10 for your instant savings. Again, guys, click the link in the description of this episode and don't forget, use that discount code DECKTALK10. Man, Colin, you know what? We have been excited about this episode for quite some time now, ever since we got this cool cat to come on as a guest. We got him locked in. But anyway, here we go. Let's get started with this thing. Our guest tonight just finished his rookie season on tour on the Elite Series. He has finished in the money an astonishing 61% of his tournaments as a pro and has qualified for his first of many Bassmaster Classics in 2024. Tennessee's own Paul Sands.
What's up, brother? Man, thanks
What's
for
up,
coming on
Paul?
here, man.
Oh, not too much, man. Glad to be on here. Thanks for having me on.
Yes, sir,
Man,
man. We're excited about this. We're excited about having you on and just chit chatting about your year last year, man. What an awesome year, right?
Yeah, man, it was a great year. Definitely learned a lot, which was my main goal, being a rookie. And hey, I made the classic. I started a little slow in my season, but I learned a lot. Look forward to this upcoming year. I feel like I'm kind of finally settled in, and yeah, I'm happy with it overall.
Yeah, that's
heck yeah.
awesome, man.
Now, let's see how, because I know that we talked about it a little bit when we had you on before, but some of these guys might not have seen it. So, how did you get started growing or into fishing? Is it something that you just always grew up in, or you just kind of like, I seen it on TV, I want to try it?
Yeah, so it's kind of a little bit of both. So I'm originally from Fairbanks, Alaska, is where I was born. Lived there till I was 10. My dad was a huge outdoorsman. I mean, he was more of a hunter than a fisherman, but still, we'd go bear hunting, and when we weren't hunting on those hunting trips, we'd go fishing because it was untapped water that fish had never seen a bait in their life. So we'd catch pike and something called a sheepfish, and we'd catch salmon and trout. So I grew up loving hunting and especially fishing. It's something I fell in love with at a young age. And then when we moved to Tennessee, we moved into a subdivision, and I hated it. I wanted to go back to Alaska. I couldn't go outside and shoot my gun or shoot squirrels or and somebody told us about a junior bass club where people in the older bass club, the adults, they take these young kids out once a month, and we'd have little tournaments. So I finally was talked into doing it. I didn't know anything about bass fishing. I was throwing musky baits and salmon spoons trying to catch bass, and I blanked every single tournament my first year. I mean, like I said, I had no idea what I was doing, but I wanted to get good at it. I mean, whatever I've done in life, I've always been, head over heels, just full steam ahead. I want to be good at whatever I do, whether it's, fishing or football or whatever it was growing up. So I just started reading everything, watching everything on TV. Thankfully, some of the older adults in that bass club taught me a little bit. I remember when one of them showed me a shaky head, like it was the most groundbreaking technology when I was, 12 years old, because I started catching fish. And
Right.
so that's kind of my story. Then I just kind of worked myself up through the juniors. And my second year, I finally won a tournament. Then I ended up winning Angler of the Year of that junior club like 4 or 5 times, and won a state tournament as a junior. Then fished in high school. High school fishing was just kind of starting. And me and a couple buddies, we started a team and had some success in that. And then just kind of in high school, I got a small aluminum boat, a 175 bass tracker, which allowed me to get time on the water, which there's no substitute to that. And just kind of worked my way up. And then I was very blessed to get a scholarship to go to Bryan College in Dayton, Tennessee. Went there and really took advantage of my time being that close to the water, got to travel all over the place, and then fished the Opens and then the Elite Series. So I really kind of took every stepping stone when it came to my fishing journey.
Right. Now, you when you said that you was throwing stuff like never fish for bass or anything like that, but then when you was throwing like stuff for muskies, and it kind of reminded me, we had Patrick Walters on, and with him being from South
Yeah.
Carolina and stuff, and he said that they would always fish, like go offshore fishing and stuff like that. And he said that a buddy of his asked him to take or to be in like it's like an adult junior. His buddy just turned 18, so his buddy was able to be the adult, and then he was the junior. And his first tournament that he ever went to,
Okay.
he put or he was fishing with offshore rod and reels and in a bass tournament. And so when
Yeah.
you said that, I was
I can relate. I mean,
like, and so I was like, man, him and Patrick's got a lot in common with that. And now if you can just have your career like Patrick's, you're going to be set.
no doubt,
Now,
he's killed it these past few years. I actually fished against him. He was, I think, a senior when I was a freshman in college, but we did get to fish against each other some, and he was great in college, and man, he's killed it
Yeah.
since then for sure.
well,
And
when you were growing up, did you have any mentor? Now, I know your dad probably, but as far as in the industry itself, who did you have as a mentor? Somebody that you actually looked up to, kind of, seen him fish and said, "That's what I want to do. When that's my career path, I want to take growing up." Who was the one guy in the industry that you might have looked up to, maybe as a mentor?
Yeah, so I had somebody. My younger brother actually, he won a state tournament, so we got to go to this junior expo, which it was in conjunction with the FLW Forestwood Cup that year. So I'm going around to the exhibits and get to know this guy at the Castrol exhibit. His name's Mike Sermon, which you might know him, Norman. He's
Yep.
from that Okeechobee
Mm-hmm.
area.
Yep.
He's a hammer down there. Started Gambler Lures.
Mm-hmm.
Very very. I mean, the salt of the earth, best person you'll ever meet in your entire
Yeah.
life. First time meeting him, and my younger brother, he invited us to come to Okeechobee and fish with him. And my mom's like, "Don't joke around about that. Like that's their dream." And you fast forward 3 months, we're fishing Okeechobee with him, and man, he has helped me so much. Just not just fishing, but the business side of it, and understanding what it means to be a pro is not just catching fish.
Yeah.
It's so much more than that. And him and his wife Sydney are great people, and I'd say beyond a shadow of a doubt, they've been my biggest mentors when it comes to fishing professionally.
That's awesome, man. That is
yeah.
great.
Michael says, Cole, with this being your first season as an elite, was there a lake that you really enjoyed going to, and was there a lake that you did not enjoy going to?
Yes. The one that really shocked me. So I've never been up north smallmouth fishing until this year. When I got to St. Clair, it was our first smallmouth tournament on the schedule, and I got there and I probably caught 70 smallmouth the first day I was there, and it was like everywhere I went. I ended up figuring out there was if you just because you were catching fish on that place doesn't mean you're doing good. You got to find the better fish. You got to
That's
find the
it.
fish that are fat and healthy. And St. Clair was unreal because it's not a really deep lake, and it's actually a grass lake, which I did not expect. But it was just finding bare spots in the grass. I felt right at home, and so St. Clair was definitely, I'd say, my favorite. The other two smallmouth lakes were unbelievable too. Um, the one I'm going to have to say was my least favorite was Okeechobee. I've spent time in Okeechobee. I looked forward to that one. I thought it would be a really good tournament for me. And I bombed that as bad as you can bomb it. I got in a hurry. I was rushed. It was my first tournament, and I was in the right areas. I mean, Drew Cook top 10 out of one area I had, a little backwater pond. Me and him were the only two in there. He was patient and caught them, and I freaked out and ran halfway across the lake and lost fish. And if it could have happened, it happened that first day. But so Okeechobee was probably my letdown this year. But even like the tough ones, like the Sabine River, I mean, it's a grinder tournament, but I enjoy those. So I'd have to go with those two. St. Clair was my favorite, and Okeechobee was kind of the dud this year.
Yeah, and that's like when you was talking about Okeechobee, but there was really only like 3 areas on Okeechobee though that, I mean, when we was watching it live, it
Yeah.
seemed like everybody was just in three areas. You had
Hmm.
that whole big old lake, but everybody was only in three areas.
Yeah.
Um, but with that kind of being said, did you ever have any issues of like people, like other anglers fishing on top of you, or y'all having to fish like gunnel to gunnel, or
Um, I mean, Okeechobee, everybody was pretty close quarters. That one pond that I found that Drew Cook was in, it was just me and him in there. But like I said, I was stupid and I left it within like 2 hours because I had one bite.
right?
Now the other area I ran to, Clark Windlet did come in second in there. Clark Windlet is a good friend of mine. There was probably 20 boats in there, and I'd set the hook, it'd be a 1 pounder. Anybody else around me set the hook, it'd be a 5 pounder. So
Yeah.
Right.
it wasn't my week for that. But I mean, the rest of the year, I kind of try to find stuff more to myself. Seminole, I had a bad boat number the first day, and there was a little patch of pad stems that I watched him catch 110 fish off of the first day. And there's 4 or 5 people who found it, but we were all pretty
Yeah.
respectful because it was such a small spot. So if I'd had a good boat number then, I like to think I'd have top 10 that one. But,
Yeah.
that's how it, I was thankful to grind it
Luckily,
checked
yeah.
out.
No, and that's one of the things with Okeechobee too is 95% of the lake. You can pull up into 95% of the areas on the lake, the shoreline or what have you, and it all looks like there's going to be a 10 pounder laying in
Yeah.
95% of the cover. But the real truth to the matter is there's probably you could fish down 300 yards of shoreline that all looks the same, and all of a sudden that 310-yard stretch is going to have three big ones laying in it. So
Yeah.
that's what makes Okeechobee so tough. Is it all looks good, but there's only, especially when there's a tournament, there's only certain areas that's actually going to produce the tournament winning fish. So if you get lucky enough and you don't fish it year round and find those sweet spots in the lake, you're pretty good, but they're not everywhere. But with that being said, it's hard to practice a tournament
Yeah.
like Okeechobee because everything looks good. You're practicing water that looks great, but you're not going to catch a tournament winning fish in those areas. So you really, for someone that just fishes it once a year, you're almost it's like 50%. You have to get lucky when you're practicing and actually find the right spots on that lake.
Yeah, and what helped us this year a little bit as far as narrowing it down, it was so muddy this year that there was only like 3 clean places. So we all knew where it was going to go down
Yeah.
at, but we got there during a cold front, so they were not biting. So you just
Right.
kind of had to have a clue of, like, okay, there's a little bite here, a little bite there. Like, it's probably going to go down here. Of course, it was a warming trend and people busted them.
Yeah.
But what I really saw, like that area that Clark Windlet was in, and I figured it out too late, way too late, but it was a flat area. Everybody was fishing. There's a little tiny depression where there's bigger fish holding in, and I mean it was like a half a foot difference. But it finally clicked like the last 30 minutes of the tournament for me, and I'm like, okay, that's why he's catching 5 pounders there, and I'm catching pound and a halfers here. But so definitely learn from it. Definitely try to learn something from everything. But it seemed like it was one of them tournaments where you had to find the spot within the spot.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. So, what would you say was the biggest learning point that you learned from somebody, or even just like how you just said that? All right, I've realized that they were in the ditch. And that's why he caught 5 pounders and I caught a pound and a halfers. What would you say was the biggest thing that you learned this year, is with it being your first year?
Man, that's a tough question, but this might sound kind of simple, but it's like the biggest thing I learned is they're always biting when it comes to the Elite Series. Like there's always fish to be caught somewhere. There's no such thing as a tough day. Like that excuse, you got to throw it out the window because like it don't matter if you're only going to get 5 bites that day. Somebody's coming in with probably 20 pounds. I mean, with the exception
Right.
of the Sabine, but I mean somebody still caught like 16 or something. But um, so you have to just have that logic in your head throughout practice, like throughout practice and the tournament, both. Like no matter how tough it is and how slow it is for you, like they're biting somewhere. Keep grinding, keep going, because your competitors, I promise you, are catching them. Like
Oh
so,
yeah. It's
don't,
not. It's not like, well, if I'm not catching them, they're not
yeah.
catching them.
You're like,
They're
oh, I got 10 pounds. I'm going to be fine. You can't have that mindset.
Yeah.
You better be
yeah.
catching everything you can. And I'll say, within that same note, it's hard to manage fish for 4 days. Like it really is. I made 7 3-day cuts this year, but I never made a top 10 to get into that 4th day. But like them guys catch them so good, you almost have to burn them down just to stay
Right.
up with them, which is just
Yeah.
crazy. But like just to even get a check, it seems like you got to really burn down some of the spots.
Yeah.
So we'll see. It's my rookie year, still got a lot to learn, but
Right.
definitely going to have to try to kind of figure that out. And I think our schedule this year was set up a little bit better for 4-day tournaments. Last year we had several spawn tournaments, which makes it kind of hard in my mind as an offshore fisherman to catch spawning fish for 4 days. But this year, starting in Texas, when it's cold, I think they'll be grouped up a little bit better. And even Florida in April, they should be grouped up a lot better than they would be if it
Right.
was January or February. So
Yeah.
should be.
Another question comes in that says, were you disappointed not seeing Chickamauga on the schedule with you being from Chattanooga area?
Yes and no. With Chickamauga being on the schedule, it will definitely create a little bit of pressure for me. And it really depends on the time of year. If we could get a tournament on Chickamauga that would be outside of a ledge tournament, I love ledge fishing. Like late May and June is it's two of my favorite months, especially to guide. I love guiding then. But as a tournament, it comes into a boat race and boat number, and there's only with mapping nowadays, and these guys are so good. There's only so many good places, and you almost have to get lucky to get on them. So now, if it was a July, August, September, October tournament, or a early like January, February tournament, man, I'd love to have it. I mean, I would.
Yeah. Just tell them to start here, huh?
Yeah, I probably wouldn't sleep, but with it, so it just depends on what time of year it was.
Right.
I'd be excited either way, though, if they do decide to come here.
Fishing 4-day events. Of course, you gotta take care of if you only have a certain amount of areas that you find in practice. When it comes down to like the second, maybe third day, if you're in contention for that 4th day, what's the decision making process, or how hard of a decision is it for you to actually leave fish when you're catching them, knowing that you might need to use them the next day or the next day? Is that a mindset that you have to go into the morning, knowing if you're catching them and you're culling 3-pounder after 3-pounder, those 3-pounders might help you the next day? So, kind of what goes into that decision on when to leave an area when you know you might need to use it?
I think it depends on where you're at. Like, if you're somewhere like Lake we fished this year, if you get to a point where you're calling 3-pounders, buddy, you better go because the 3-pounder is a good one. Now, if you're like St. Clair, for example, I mean, I was calling 23-pounders a day, like because a 3-pounder really doesn't do anything for you. So, like at St. Clair, I was going to beat them down until I had at least 20 pounds. Like
Right.
now, if I got to that point, like the first day, once I got to 20 pounds, I kind of started veering off my areas and trying to find kind of new stuff. And I actually caught my biggest one the first day. I had a 5'9" smallmouth that I caught kind of going. There's kind of a community hole area. I kind of swung a little bit wider than everybody and got over 21 pounds that first day. And I was sitting a little bit higher up. But you just kind of have to go off feel what you think everybody else is catching. Now, the first day of the tournament is always a little bit hard because you don't know what the weights are going to be like. Now, the second day, you can kind of get a feel of, okay, 17 pounds is really good. So if you get to that mark, now it's time to lean off of them, or a 4-day tournament is so hard to win anyway. So maybe it's time to start looking for new stuff.
Right. Now, how many, when you going, like going into a lake, like how many fish, like when you say you got to have it for 4 days, because, a lot of us guys just do like the local tournaments and stuff like that. But when you're fishing a 4-day tournament, like how big of an area or like schools of fish are you looking for, or are you just looking for spots that maybe have 3 or 4 on there and you're just looking for 25 of them, those spots?
Yeah. I mean, the way I've always looked at it, like you're on what you're on. Like,
Yeah.
of course, of course, you're always wanting to find that mega school of 4 and 5 pounders. And thankfully in college, I had that happen a few times. I haven't had it happen in the elites yet, but this is
it's still young.
Year and,
yeah.
But of course, you always want to find the biggest group you can. But a lot of times, the truth is, in a tournament, you might not be on much, and sometimes you just make like Lay Lake was a tournament this year. I made really good decisions each day, one day I decided to start on grass and hope there was a shad spawn on stuff I never even fished, and I caught a 5.5 pounder doing that.
Right.
Another day I found new bedfish that I didn't think would set back up. It was a new wave pushed up. So I mean, you just try to get on what you can get on, and then of course we all want to find those big schools of fish, but and you got to weigh in the time of year. If it's a springtime event, if you're catching them up shallow, you hope new fish pull up shallow.
Pull up,
Now you're
yeah.
probably not going to catch 100 of them. Maybe you will, but you might only be fishing for 7 or 8 bites a day. So it's just you're on what you're on, and then after practice you just have to kind of make good decisions on where you want to start, and then let your instincts take over after that. Really.
Right. Now, when like let's say when you went up to St. Clair and stuff like that, what is your mindset before going to, and your like I guess like your preparation is where I'm trying to go to. It's
Mm-hmm.
like how are you preparing yourself to go to a new body of water?
Mm-hmm.
Um, to are you looking at navionics, and are you looking up at like the Google not the Google Maps but the Google Earth and stuff like that? I mean, how much of all that plays an effect into your preparation?
Yeah, so like a place like St. Clair, for example, it was a place I'd never been to. It was a place that I'd read the tournament results for the past few years, and what I noticed the past few years, it seemed like St. Clair was fishing a little bit better than Lake Erie, which Lake Erie was an option for us to run to. It was a long run, but it's a great lake and it's got big fish in it. So I kind of went ahead and eliminated it. I'm just going to stay in St. Clair and maximize my time. It's a big lake, anyways. Um, and Lake Master is what I use. I definitely pulled it up, try to look for any irregularities because it's a very shallow, flat.
Right.
Well, it's actually kind of like Okeechobee. Honestly, it's kind of a northern Okeechobee. You get out there in the middle, and you might have 18 or 20 feet. That's the difference, but instead of 10.
Right.
But I mean, the rest of it's flat. Now, once you start fishing, like I started realizing a lot of the fish I was catching were 9 to 12. That's when I really, took Lake Master back up, and I was like, oh, okay, I need to look here, here, and here. Which still is a ton of the lake, and you still had to graph a lot and look for little bare spots in the grass. But it does, minimize it a little bit. But a lot of times it's kind of a combination of you think of the seasonal patterns, and then after that you get there, and it's a lot of trial and error. You hit, we'll say we're somewhere else because St. Clair was kind of one dimensional, but
Well, I just said St. Clair because I knew that was your first time going up there. So I
yeah,
mean,
or like the Sabine River, for example, like you fish rock for a little bit, or wood, or vegetation,
right.
and then I think the biggest thing what these pros are so good at is they'll get a bite doing something, and they'll take every little detail from that bite, and over a couple of days of practice, they're able to replicate it, and then once they get on a little pattern, they'll take it and run with it, and
Right. And
so
tweak
yeah,
it up a little bit for
yeah.
them.
So it's just you do as much prep as you can, and as much research, and I always try to look at the map and familiarize myself with everything. But a lot of it is once you get there, you have to just kind of take every little detail you can.
Yeah. Now, I know because one thing that I enjoy watching your YouTube and stuff like that. Can you talk a little bit about, like, let's say with it being wintertime now, uh, like your lake maps and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that? What are you looking at on the lake maps to be able to put yourself on fish? We know that you're guiding and stuff as well because now you got to. It's not that you're doing this for the elites; you're doing it as a job now to put clients on. So, how are you looking at the maps to know where you need to be on?
Yeah. So right now, I have a platform called Fishing for Dummies, and I actually do a weekly map study. So if anybody's interested in that, be sure. Like I really do a really intense breakdown. We talk about something different every week. But like so, right now in Chickamauga, for example, the water's really low, which I like, and it's clean. So it's winter pool. It's like 646, I think, or 676. I don't know what it is, but it's low. It's all the way down. Water's
Yeah,
clean. It's cold. The water's like high 40s right now. So that tells me these fish are going to probably be a little bit off the bank. A big thing right now is channel swings. I fish both main river channel swings, anywhere where that, let's say, especially if you get upriver, the water will be coming down straight and then it'll kind of bend. That river will bend. So what happens, that current pushes all the bait right in that little bend. So right in that little corner, stuff like that's what I look for. And then when it comes to baits, Alabama rig, jerk bait, single swim bait, on stuff like that. And the same way in creek channels, little tiny bends. Now I do have some sneaky brush piles, some sneaky stump rows, stuff like that. Some springs too that there's warmer water coming out of the bottom of the lake. That's always really good once it gets cold. But right now, that a lot of the fish are not up on top of the flats. A lot of them are kind of pulled off. Now, the exception of that, if there's still grass, if you can find grass in about 2 to 4 foot of water, you can still catch them ripping a Missouri rattling vibe. The past few weeks have been really good with that. But it's kind of a combination of shallow grass flats for me in that 2 to 4 foot of water. Even then, with the water all the way down, that there's usually a little ditch somewhere close to that 2 to 4 foot of water, or with that water being really low and clear, that channel swing deal usually is a really big player.
Right. Now, well, talking about the A rig, I mean, this is the time now to actually be bringing it out. I used to say about mid 50s is when I like to try to pull it out, and so with that being said, do you have any kind of tips or anything like that? I mean, don't give the whole kit caboodle, but is there anything that you could suggest for somebody that may be trying to learn how to throw an A rig?
Yep, absolutely. So as far as the bait itself, I throw a diamond baits Alabama rig. I throw the 3.5 inch, which is their small compact. Let's see, there's my hands. They're my small compact rig. Probably more than any of them because it's easy to throw. It's not going to wear you out. I put it on either a 7.6 heavy or like a 7.10 extra heavy glass. But so put it on. You want it on a big rod because you're more lobbing it. As far as the jig heads go, I 2 dummy swimmers on it and then 3 jig heads with baits because we're only allowed to throw 3 hooks in Tennessee. And I almost always use an 1/8 ounce. That way it doesn't sink too fast. If I'm using live scope, I can kind of watch it. If I'm not, I can count it down. It usually falls about a foot per second. So it looks really natural. It don't weigh a ton. It don't wear you out. I throw it on 20-pound Missouri fluorocarbon. And the biggest thing is, when throwing that, just a slow medium retrieve. The swim baits I throw are almost always, I throw a 3.25 Fishco slim swimmer. It's just whatever natural color you like. I always keep it really natural on Chickamauga because the water's clear. And then just throwing it down those channel swings, any little break over brush piles or stumps. And usually I'll say my best depth for an Alabama rig is probably 4 to 12 foot of water. In the wintertime, I don't catch a whole lot of fish deeper than 12 foot. You can. There's certain places you definitely can, but I would say my 90, with the exception of rattle trap fish, especially Alabama rig fish, 95% of them come in that 4 to 12 foot of water. So that can eliminate a ton of water right there.
Ton of water. Yeah.
And then if there's a ditch, like a creek mouth, a drain, something like that, that's just somewhere where the fish, as that water's been pulled down, they can just kind of group up. And then one of the biggest things I didn't mention a second ago, in the wintertime and throwing an Alabama rig, you want to look for bait. And that's one thing that live scopes really help with. If you get an area and you're not seeing any bait, it's probably time to go. Because in the wintertime, fish eat. I know it's kind of against some of our old logic, thinking that fish were lethargic in the wintertime. They might not feed as much. There might be bite windows, but they definitely feed on bait really heavy in the wintertime, and you want to be around shad.
Yeah. And that's one thing that I've noticed is during the wintertime, it is more the feeding windows are more crucial in the wintertime than it is the summertime.
Yeah.
Yeah, also every state has their own hook laws as far as 5 and 3. Tennessee is actually 3 hooks. On the other 2 hooks on your A rig, do you use teasers or teaser baits, or do you just run? How do you run your 3 hooks with the 5 on the A rig?
Yeah, so I usually the jig heads I use are diamond baits makes them as well, and they come in a pack of 5. It's 3 hooks and 2 spring locks. So I use 2 little spring locks, and I screw in two little swimmers. I usually throw the same brand swimmers on them, and then what I'll do a lot of times I'll put like 4 translucent colors on the outside, and in the middle one I might put a little bit brighter one, like a white or like a sexy shad or something, just to offset it.
Okay.
But yeah, I do use two teasers on mine, and you will have some
Now,
fish, hit the teasers, but that's just part of it.
Yeah.
now, where because I've seen where people put like the hooks, like the center one's always got the hook on it, and then I've seen them to where they've gone up and down with it. I've seen them to where they've gone to the side with it. How do you prefer to run them?
Yeah, I have one hook in the middle, and then the two bottom have a hook on them
Yeah,
because fish usually come up from the bottom eating it, and they'll usually hit either the middle one or one of the bottom two first.
yeah.
So that's what I'd recommend.
Yeah.
Now, how do you go about like tuning? Because I know, like when I first started throwing an A rig, my A rig just it swam when I was it just kept on doing circles.
Yeah.
So
Um,
how do you get it to where like the uh, to get it to where it's running true?
I think a lot of that might be the brand of Alabama rig that diamond bait's one that I throw. It
That
runs true as can be,
yeah.
and the way it is that it's a swivel you tie onto, so the weight's going to transfer.
Yeah.
The bottom two are going to be where that weight transfers to. So
Nice.
it runs really true. It's
Yeah.
because that swivel allows it to move freely.
Nice. Do you put? You said that you'll do like a different color in the center. Do you go larger with the bait as well, or do you keep them all the same size?
I have gone larger. It just kind of depends. Now,
Yeah.
one thing I will do, like so, November, December on Chickamauga, I usually throw the smaller swim baits to anywhere from a 2.8 to a 3.25. Then usually once January rolls around, you can start getting away with the bigger swim baits. So I'll bump up to like a 3.8 to even a 4.5 inch. I'll throw a 4.5 inch on an A rig all day when
Right.
once it gets seems like the colder it gets, the better that bigger swim bait gets. So usually
Yeah.
January through March. That's
What bite like on the A rig though? I've heard different stories on how they bite, and once you do get bit, what's the hook set? As far as do you wait for your rod to load up, or how do they actually hit the A rig? I heard some people say they slam it, other people say it's a really light bite, and just
yep.
wait for the rod tip to load on you, and then pull back on them. But what is the bite like on it?
So the answer is they do all of those. It just each fish is kind of different, but a lot of times there's three bites. Sometimes they slam it, and when they slam it, you're going to set the hook out of instinct probably.
Yeah,
Sometimes it does get mushy, but what I would recommend definitely let them load up on it because if you also let it kind of let them load up, once they get the bite, I kind of reel into them and let my rod tip go. Then I just kind of pull back. That way, Sue, the kind of the more you delay on that, a lot of times you'll get two if
yeah,
you wait a second
Ah.
instead. And then what the big ones usually do, you'll be reeling it and it'll feel tick and it'll feel like somebody cut your line and you'll have like
Yeah.
7 foot slack. That's usually if one does that, you better hold on. It's usually a real big one.
get your
Yeah.
arm broke.
Yeah.
Well, I know, like if I've noticed, and I don't know if you noticed this as well, Cole, but if I start throwing a bigger swim bait on the A rig in late November, December, this is primarily on Nickajack,
Right.
uh, that I will have the stripers nail it before I can get even, if it's the bigger ones, they'll nail it before the bass will.
Yeah. I mean, and if you're around tail races and stuff where there's more striper, you're going to catch more striper. But yeah, I mean, we definitely catch a lot of striper mixed in too, and
Yeah.
they're always a welcome addition in my boat, especially guiding because they're fun. But
Oh, yeah.
I haven't really noticed because I mean we'll catch them on the small Alabama rigs too, so they're
Right.
just mean fish and they're going to bite if you get an A rig around them. I feel like.
Um, Michael Lendl says Norman runs a five. He runs five big nasties on an A rig on Placid. So
Hey,
the
shout out,
big nasty is
shout
a
out to the big nasty.
14.25-inch worm.
Yeah.
So what? Here, another question is, what would be your go-to bait if you have to just go and catch a fish?
we're gonna have to change that time.
They didn't give a time frame. They just said if you have to go catch a fish.
For one, if you have to catch one fish, what usually is your go-to bait if you know you have to catch one fish?
I would say 9 months out of the year, it's a drop shot. If I had to choose one just for all 12 months, I'd have to go with probably a jig, just like a half-ounce jig,
Yeah.
kind of a flipping style. That way you could throw it deep or shallow or flip it or do whatever you wanted. So I'd
Yeah.
probably have to go with a jig.
Yeah. Now, how important? Because I've seen you out on Chickamauga quite a few times, and I do see you out on the ledges quite a bit. But I've also seen you beating the bank. How important is it for you to be that versatile, especially being in the elites?
Very much so. And I think anymore, there's no excuse not to be versatile. There's so much information on YouTube and everywhere, TV, and there's so much more information now than there was 10 years ago. So you can definitely cut the learning curve a ton. Um, Chickamauga, thankfully, has made me really versatile because
Yeah.
there's days you got to catch them shallow, there's days you got to catch them deep. Now we have the seasons here in Tennessee where you do get to experience the ledge bite, you get to experience the spawn, the tough fall bite. I mean, so you got grass, you got current. Chickamauga is a good lake to learn a lot and become versatile on. But definitely in the elite series, you go to 9 different lakes, 10 lakes including the classic, and yeah, you better be versatile because I promise you, every one of them guys that you're fishing against is going to be really versatile as well.
Yeah. And I mean, they might not be the best at it, but all of them can do it very well.
Yeah, yeah. There's definitely
So,
guys that shine offshore and guys that shine shallow. But you take somebody like Kyle Welcher, for example. He's always been more of a bank beater and been
bank, yeah.
phenomenal at that. And his offshore game has been a little bit weak. And then you see him this year; he kills it in the smallmouth tournaments, like just
Yeah.
smokes them.
Yeah. If you don't see Kyle Welcher with a white swim jig, he's sick or something.
Yeah, you'd think so, but not anymore, man. He can catch him doing whatever.
Yeah. But that's one thing we're hoping for you is for you to hold that AOI trophy up here soon too. So
I
uh,
love it.
I mean, because that would definitely make us Tennessee guys that's seen you out on the water and stuff pretty proud of. I mean, we're proud of you anyways, but I mean, to have that pretty much to say that the AOY is coming back to the home area, that'd be pretty awesome.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, man. That's definitely maybe a long term goal of mine. That's and if it happens, it happens. That's the way I've always looked at it. And a blue trophy, an AOY, a classic win, any of them would be pretty awesome. Hey, my first top 10 in the elites would be awesome. So that's probably my main goal this upcoming year is to at least get one top 10, have myself in position to win one. So, but hey, we'll see what happens.
Well, let's just do this, Cole. Let's do this. Let's go to Tulsa, get you the classic win, so you don't have to worry about trying to qualify next year. It's already in the bag.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then let's just go and just run it down for AOY.
Let's do it, man. That would be the one to win. And it's going to be the right time of year. I feel like anybody could win that one. So I can't wait for that one to kick off.
Yeah. Now, how early are you preparing yourself for the classic, or are you one that kind of, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. Right now I'm preparing myself for the very first out in Texas. I'm preparing myself for that.
For me personally, I've probably been preparing myself more for the first one on Toledo Bend, and I've been doing that by doing something you probably wouldn't think would apply there. I've been fishing deep, clear lakes like South Holston and Watauga and some of these.
Right.
Because on Toledo, a lot of people know it now, but they get deep on bait, like 40 to 80 foot on Toledo, and that's the way I think I could win that tournament. So that's something I've been working on a little bit lately. Now, the Classic, we have off limits January 1st. We're not allowed to be on the lake until official practice. If the tournament was a couple weeks earlier, if it was a January, February, early March, I'd probably be down there practicing a little bit. Or if it was a little bit later, like, May or June, I'd probably go scope out the lake. But with the tournament being the third week in March, I just think it's going to change so much during that week. And I don't want any preconceived notions. I just want to go down there, figure it out as I go.
Yeah.
I feel like that's my best way to have a shot to win that one. I could be dead wrong, but there are going to be some tournaments this year, like the summer ones at Smith and Wheeler, that I do go down a little bit early and look around, look for brush or grass and stuff like that. But I think for that one, my best bet's just kind of definitely keep it in the back of my mind. And I'm fishing. I'm spending 3 to 5 days in the water anyway, so as long as you're in the kind of that swing of things, I think you're good. But yeah, I'm just going to kind of fill it out the week of.
Yeah, no, that's cool, man. Before we're talking about the classic a little bit, too, more in depth, but I want to go back a little bit though, man. Your last tournament of the year last season, um, going into that tournament, you kind of had a mindset on what you needed to actually qualify to make the classic this year or this coming year. What was your mindset, and how was it going into like day one of that last tournament of the season last year, knowing that you had to finish so high in order to actually make the classic? How was that? How was your mindset going into that, knowing
Yes,
what you needed to do?
yeah. So it was one of them things. I was kind of going into the last couple events. I was actually kind of surprised that I was so close to making the classic because just my first tournament was 103rd and my third tournament was 84th. So I'm like, I've got no shot. But I started making like 5, 6 checks in a row, whatever it was, and I'm getting to that last tournament. I'm like, I've got a real shot to make the classic. I just need like a top 30, 35 finish here, but it depends on how everybody else catches them. And so we leave Champlain, we get there, and we have a weather delay. So my 3 days of practice on a lake I've never been to turns into 2 days of practice on a lake I've never been to. And so it's just, it's one of them deals. I know I got to catch them good at St. Lawrence. They're predicting terrible winds the first day of the tournament, like 7 and 8 foot waves. So, I go into it thinking I probably need to run to the lake to top 10 the tournament. But I think I can do good enough in the river and probably not kill myself. Um, so I decided to stay in the river my first day of practice, and I was going to kind of let that dictate what I did the second day. And the first day, complete, grace of God. I went to an area and like everywhere I hit in this like 2 mile stretch, I caught like a 4 to 6 pounder. And I'm like, this is easy. And then I spent the next day and a half in the river, realizing the rest of the river was not easy, and they were small fish. And so it just kind of worked out. It was one of them deals, and I milked that little area I had. There was like 8 spots in one area. I milked it for all it was worth and fished very clean, thankfully. Landed every fish but maybe one, which is very good smallmouth fishing. I think I lost 2 smallmouth all year in 3 smallmouth tournaments, which is unheard of.
Yeah.
Um, and I literally caught the exact weight to the ounce I needed to qualify. I didn't think I had enough. I thought I missed it by a few spots, but
Yeah.
it was just one of the deals I feel like it's meant to be, and definitely going to take advantage and enjoy every moment being there this year.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. Because, I mean, just a fish regurgitating some bait would have cost you.
Yeah, for
And,
sure.
and I mean, I think if I would have known that I was that close and I open up that live well and I see like part of a bait just regurgitated, I'd be like, come on,
Oh yeah,
come on.
yeah.
But let's see. I had another question here. Tom Helton says, tell Cole I said hi. So Tom Helton says hi, Cole.
Hey Tom, hope you're doing good, man.
Uh, Another question is he says I've got a boy that is about to be or is going to be a freshman next year and wanting to fish in high school. What is the best advice that you could give him?
I'd say for that kid, just take advantage of every moment you get on the water. Just this is the age for him. It's about learning. There's going to be some high school kids that are way ahead of him. I know there's a lot of high school kids that were way ahead of me as far as the learning curve goes. But don't worry about that. Don't worry. Every time it's not about winning it at that age. It's about learning. Get on the water as much as you can, and maybe it's not on the lake. Maybe it's at a farm pond next door. But if he really loves it, I would encourage him to spend as much time as he can. Of course, you want him to make good grades and all that good stuff. But once he gets that done, just encourage him to spend as much water or time in the water as he can. Learn from every moment. Really, take details from every bite he gets. And I'll say one thing too, just get confidence with different baits. Get confidence with a drop shot and then a crankbait, and just be a sponge. Just learn as much as you can at that age.
Yeah. Now, with you fishing in college, uh, we really haven't had too terribly many people that have fished in college.
Mhm.
Um, was it? Did it help you out with maybe having? I know you went to Bryan College. Did it help out, like if you was to have, let's say, somebody that was from Kentucky and stuff like that, to where that y'all were partner? I don't know where your partner was, but was from. But does that help to like to have a guy that's like a southern guy and also have a guy that maybe like a northern type guy to where y'all can bounce things off, or does
Yeah.
it
Yeah, absolutely. I had a few different partners while I was there because I stayed in college about as long as they let me stay. Because I loved just fishing these different lakes, and it was on the school's budget instead of mine, so that was nice. But yeah, absolutely. So I had a few different partners; they were all great. But my last partner, for example, kind of hitting on what you said, he was a Florida boy. His name's Connor Demaro, great fisherman, and I think we both were able to teach each other a lot of
right?
stuff. He was very familiar with some of the shallow Kissimmee grass and lily pads, and really good offshore fisherman too. But I feel like I probably helped his game out there a little bit, and now that's all he wants to do. But we met a really good team in college. We won several tournaments and won a national championship, and definitely made a really, really good team because we could bounce off each other's strengths, and we were both versatile enough that it wasn't hard to do what the other person was doing. But we definitely learned a lot from each other.
Now,
Right.
fishing collegiately in college, do they also work with collegiate anglers, not only on the water but like off the water, as far as the business side of fishing? If you were to make it to the next level, like you did, do you learn some of the business end of the sport in college as well, or is it basically just on the water?
Yeah, it's more just on the water stuff. I mean, for me personally, I got a business management degree. Then I stayed and got a master's in marketing. So that business aspect helped it, but not really. We're kids studying I had friends that were studying an engineering degree or pre med or whatever. So not so much that would be nice to know, but that's kind of something. Thankfully, some of the mentors like Mike Sermon,
Yeah.
Clark Windlet's a good friend of mine, Frank Talley, somebody I've become really close with this year. Thankfully, having connections like that, guys who've been through it, and definitely there's that's how you really make a living, is that business side of the fishing industry. So still
Right.
learning a lot of that as I go, but been very fortunate to have the companies that have supported me behind me, and definitely need to keep learning because that's how you make a living at the sport of fishing.
Yeah. Now, how important has it been for you to have the sponsors that you have to come on and say, "All right, Cole, we believe in you. We're going with you. Here you go." How important is it for you to have them on with you?
Oh man, it's I couldn't do it without them. I mean, it's really like, from a financial standpoint, I mean, these tournaments are expensive. It's
Yeah.
$5,000 a tournament to fish, and you add in travel and everything. So these companies that support me, man, they support me, so I want to do everything I can to promote them because, I appreciate it that much. And I think a good testament is, I've been with some of these companies like Yozuri and several of them for 4 or 5, 6 years now. Even before I was fishing the Elite Series, I had connections with them, and yeah, that's how you make. Like I said, you make a living at it. You want to do everything you can for them because they're believing in you, and I definitely I'm probably a little different than some people. I'm kind of loyal to once I'm with a company, I want to be with them because they've put their trust in me, and as I grow, I hope we can both grow together.
Yeah.
And yeah, you have to have the sponsorship behind you, and definitely thankful to have the ones that I have.
Yeah. And I know that, like you said, Yoziri, I know that as long as I can remember, all I can remember is you talking about the Yoziris. I mean, that's really you're the first person that I really knew, really talking about them, especially around here. Um, but yeah, they've been with you for quite a bit, and
Yeah.
so um, what do you? I know like some of these kids, like because Norman and I we get this question quite a bit, um, and I want your opinion to kind of to help out, especially with the guy that was asking about his son and stuff. Um, because now, like these high schoolers and stuff, they're like, all right, I want to be able to have all these sponsors and stuff.
Hmm.
Um, what is your opinion on should they wait on the sponsorship, especially while they're in high school and college, and kind of just work their way up through, or what? How do you think they should approach that?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing now, especially as a high schooler, college angler, and as you get into college, things get more serious. But man, make relationships. Like
Yeah,
just value every person you meet. I'd say half my sponsors now are people I've taken on guide trips, business
right,
owners who I've become great friends with, and they great people who own awesome companies, and they're I'm proud to represent them, and they're proud to sponsor me because we have that relationship, and
yeah,
so definitely take advantage of every relationship. Don't take any for granted. People watch what you do, so you hold yourself up straight. Be nice to people every chance you get, and I think that's the biggest thing now. And then as maybe your team does need a couple sponsors here and there. Reach out to maybe a local business here, a local business there. You don't have to ask for a lot, especially if you're in high school or college. But make them relationships,
yeah,
show them that you can do a good job on promoting their stuff or their company, and that'll usually kind of snowball and grow as you get older.
yeah. And the main thing, like Norman, I try to tell people, um, is like, especially like for the younger kids, they think that, well, I've got a YouTube channel or whatever, so I want to get a sponsor and stuff. That mainly their focus needs to be on just being out on the water. Um, and if it comes down to where you're ready for a sponsor, you don't need to go into it as what is the sponsor doing for me? What can
Mhm.
I get from the sponsor? It's they don't think of it that way. They're thinking, what can you do for me to make me want to sponsor you?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so um,
yeah. We
that's
call
the
we call
go
it a
ahead.
sponsorship, but more it's a partnership. I mean,
Yeah,
it's the way you really got to look at it, and definitely it's it's business. That they want to pay for advertising is what it is. So
yeah,
definitely want to represent your sponsors as good as you can and do everything you can for them. And if it's a good company with good people behind it, they're going to recognize that you're doing a lot, and they're going to want to help you out more.
right. Now, let's talk a little bit about your guiding because I definitely don't want to leave that out. Um, how long have you been guiding?
So I'm about to finish up my third year. This 2024 will be my fourth year going into it. Really enjoyed it, man. I love taking people out, getting to see them catch fish, but I also love teaching people as much as us catching fish. If
Yeah,
I can teach somebody something, they're able to go away with it and apply it themselves on the same lake or a different lake and have success. Man, that's the most rewarding thing for me as a guide. So
right,
definitely enjoying my time there. Like I said, I've made a lot of great relationships that have led to sponsorships down the road. So that's been a huge blessing. And then it allows me to have time in the water, man. I get to fish for a living, so I can't complain, and helps me to stay up with the fish. And it kind of makes you fish a little different when you're guiding. You almost want to find fish that are a little bit easier to catch.
right,
Maybe flipping's not the best thing to do sometimes. And I have people all over the spectrum as far as skill level, and I enjoy taking all of them out. You got some that have fished a ton, and you can kind of recognize, okay, we can go fish this spot maybe, or we can do this technique. But definitely it just helps you learn even as a guide. I try to. I mean, I would say I learn something every day, even as much as I've spent. I've spent hours and hours and 15 years on this lake, or I guess probably 17 years now. Um, it just gives you a chance to continue to learn.
right. Now, where can people, if they want to have you take them out on a guide trip, how can they get in contact with you?
Yeah, so you can go to Coal Sands Fishing on Facebook and just shoot me a message, or you go to coalsandsfishing.com. My phone number's on there; it should be at the bottom. Shoot me a text or a call. I probably haven't updated. I have like 5 or 6 open dates in January. So if anybody wants to go, feel free to give me a text or a message on Facebook, and love to take you out.
Yeah. Now, and with which we already know, we know that because we've asked this before. Um, if somebody says, "All right, Cole, I'm not really wanting to, I just want to have you come out and do like a one-on-one like unit. You show me what I'm looking for on the units and stuff like that to kind of help break stuff down."
Mhm.
Uh, do you do that also?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. That's something I enjoy to do. I've set up people's electronics before. They'll ask me to come out on their boat. I'm actually this upcoming year. I'm going to spend the second half of the year more up towards the northeast Tennessee part, the Douglas, Cherokee, Watauga, South Holston, Boone, those lakes up there, and I definitely plan on doing a lot of that, and hopefully help some people out there. And yeah, that's something I love to do. I'm very familiar with all three electronic brands now. I've ran Garmin, I ran Lowrance last year, and then this year Humminbird jumped on as one of my sponsors. So I'm excited about that. And I've ran Humminbird in the
Nice.
past as well, especially for side scan. It's in my opinion the best side scan out there. But
Yeah,
so
their factory mappings is probably the best straight out the factory. I believe Humminbirds is probably the best, along with the side scan.
yeah, yeah, and it's come a long way. It's Mega Live and everything's come a long way. So I'm
Yeah,
excited to be working with them. But yeah, I'm very familiar with all three brands. So definitely, if y'all want to do that or interested in that, let me know.
yeah. So uh, let's see. Seth says that he needs help with his units. So that's the
Okay.
guy who you need. Uh, look him up again, Seth, on Facebook, Cole Sands Fishing or colesandsfishing.com. Uh, and holler at him, and he can hook you up. So let's see. We've had you on here for 56 minutes, brother. So I want to ask a question that is not fishing related.
Okay.
It's talking about Miami. What do you think is going to happen in Miami, Georgia or FSU?
Well, so I am a diehard FSU fan. My mom went to Florida State. My whole mom's side of the family went to Florida State. With that being said, we've had so many opt outs that we're going to be playing almost all second string, and we do not have a chance to win that game.
Yeah.
So, if it was all of our starters playing, I honestly think it would be a pretty good game. Now, our offense is definitely going to struggle. Our defense, I think, is the best in the country. If
I
we
was
have
about to say defense wise, I think defense is going to keep them in the game though.
the defense will hold, I think, anybody to under 20. But with all of our starters going pro, and all the playmakers going pro, I don't think it's going to be pretty.
It's going to be a good game. It's going to be one of them. I think it's going to be better than what you're thinking, Cole, because
I don't think
both of them teams have got something to prove. Like you kept us out. Watch
so.
this. This is going to be the game that people's going to be like, this should have been the national championship game.
I would agree, but I just man we've already had 8 of our like all stars, and I mean sit out. And I mean that's our team. I mean that's
Yeah,
like so. I mean, I would agree with you there. I honestly wish they wouldn't even play because for Florida State, it's kind of a lose lose. Like if they win, the excuse is going to be, well, Georgia had their best players sit out, and then
yeah,
if we lose, the argument is, well, they never deserved to be there in the first place.
right.
So I don't know. I think it's kind of a lose lose. I'd love to see them win. I'd love to see it be a close game, but I think Georgia's going to have. I'll take Georgia by 3 touchdowns in that game.
Woo, man.
Georgia don't have enough players opting out either. Georgia's playing. I mean, I've heard like 2 people opting out.
I think they got 2 or 3 that I've heard is
Yeah, we
not
got 8 or
playing.
9, so there's no
Yeah.
chance.
So I had to ask, knowing that you was a Florida State fan.
Hey,
So
I'm realistic. I was so proud of them this year, and I'd have loved. I think their defense could have kept them in any game. I really do.
yeah,
I don't know if they'd have won the national championship, but I think they would have hung in there with anybody. But yeah, I mean, against Georgia with all of our starters sitting out, it's our second string. They're young,
yeah.
so we'll
I
see.
mean, yeah, and I mean, and I think Alabama's probably going to run all over Michigan.
I
Uh,
think Alabama's not very good either, but
oh, I don't either, but I
they play
don't.
close with 7 people this year, and somehow they get in. But
But if somebody gives Nick Saban 3 weeks to prepare for a game, that's usually
yeah,
trouble. So
yes, especially with them refs, they'll give them a little tip, and they'll be
hey,
fine.
I mean the SEC's got to win, right?
That's hey, that's their belief.
So, but let's see. I hadn't been paying attention to questions, and I got people are talking amongst each other on the chat. And, um, well, Norman, let's just do this. We've had Cole on here for an hour. Let's go on and let's start wrapping it up. And you want to ask the Cole's already answered this question the last time we talked to him, but
Yeah, well,
let's ask to him again.
let's go into our final question of the night. Actually, we're actually going to do a two-part question. Of course, the last question not right after, but I want to go back real quick uh, to the classic. I'm kind of curious about this, and uh, we'll be at the classic again this year with the media, so we're excited too on media day to get to interview you, Cole,
Yeah,
on the media day, the day before day one. So we're really excited about that. We'll be back this year for media, but going into day one, your first classic, right before they tow you out in the arena, and getting ready to step on the biggest stage, really in the fishing world. What do you think your mindset's going to be? Where do your mind's going to be? Um, uh, how much do you think your heart's going to be pounding out of your chest right when they announce your name and they start dragging your boat into the arena?
man. I mean, just saying that gave me chill bumps, man. I definitely, I'm going to. I think I'm just going to take it all in and enjoy every moment. It's funny. I had a memory on Facebook pop up a couple weeks back. I fished the college bracket. I made it there twice, which is really hard just to make it. And on that post, I said, I fished my heart out. I got eliminated the first round that year. And I said, it's not in the cards for me to make the classic this year, but one day I will be back. And so that popped up the other day. I forgot I even wrote that. And I saw it pop up and I was like, that's pretty awesome. So yeah, man, I'm just going to take it in. I might get a little emotional. But just going to enjoy it, man. Take
Yeah, that's
every,
awesome, man. Yeah, and me and Colin's gonna be there rooting you on from day one, dude. And we can't
Yeah,
wait and just to watch you come in that stage and hopefully at the end of it, be holding up that classic trophy.
let's
And
do it
if not this year,
now.
one year, we know it. We know it's in your cards for your career, dude. But anyway, going into the last question, we asked this to all of our, and of course, we asked this to you last time we had you on when we were doing that live at Hawaii Marine Bait and Tackle. But if you were to have one person on your boat, Cole, and this person could be passed away or still with us, who would that person be, and why would you want that person on your boat to fish with you for the day?
Probably Brandon Polinick. He's somebody I've always looked up to, just as much as he's accomplished in his young career, and just the way he handles himself. I mean, he carries himself so well, and he understands the business side of it. I'd say better than most of the veterans do,
most of them. Yeah.
honestly. But man, like when I was, in high school and middle school, like learning, I saw somebody like him who was very versatile. Even I remember 10 years ago, a lot of the pros would tell you get good at one thing and just make that your thing. I don't think that's true anymore. And I've always kind of mimicked people like him, Aaron Martins, some of them guys or I've tried to mimic him, I should say, who are just so versatile. And man, I would love to get in the boat with Paul in it for a day and just kind of pick his brain, understand his decision making. Because to me,
Yeah.
that's the part of it that's hard to be. It's hard to teach is that decision making. So
Yeah.
I'd love just to ask him, hey, why did you go here? Why are you looking at this? And I think that would be a really fun day in the water.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And I mean, and if you can just get a quarter of his work ethic, I mean, the
Yeah,
sky's the limit. He is probably one of the hardest working
yeah.
anglers that's out on tour right now, I believe.
Yeah, well, that's one thing I will say. I do have a good work ethic. I mean, I'm out
Yeah.
there daylight till dark, and what I lack for in skill, I definitely try to make up for in work. So
Yeah,
yeah,
but
he's
you got to. I mean,
yeah, to compete with you
and
guys, you have
and
to.
and you could tell that your work ethic has. I mean, it really showed off. I mean, even though you did have those two bad tournaments, but you don't come your rookie year into the elites and put yourself in money over 60% of the time if you did not have a good work ethic.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
Yeah, you do.
but guys, we want to tell y'all thank you. We're gonna let Cole get back to. He's actually down in Florida spending time with his family uh, for Christmas. We're going to let him get back to that. Cole, thanks for coming on, brother. Uh, Norman and I do want to let everybody know, saying Merry Christmas. And Norman, do you want to tell people before we get off here about next week and what we got coming up?
Yeah. All right, guys. We're actually going to be off next week, the 28th. We're going to take that week off to kind of celebrate Christmas with our families, going into New Year. A lot of family time, a lot of good eats, and just some fellowship. So we're taking next week off. We'll be back stronger than ever on January 4th, first episode of the new year. We are going to have with us Jerry Brousseau and Roland Martin will be our guest on January 4th. So we're starting to New Year off really strong. And Colin, talk to everybody a little bit about something new that we're going to actually start for January
Oh,
4th.
yeah. So, and I totally forgot to get it ready. If you go to our website right here, it's going to have our schedule as well as, let's see, it is on that little one. But if you go to Deck Talk Podcast, it is our new website that we got. It's going to show our schedule of what we got going on. Um, Here in the next couple months, we're going to have the classic and all other stuff. But we're booked all the way up to the first week of April. But what we're going to do is to kind of help to where we're going to be able to get more questions because sometimes it is tough trying to scroll through to get every question. We want y'all to go to the website. Underneath the contact us is a thing to where you put your name, your email, and then message. So with us having Roland coming on the first week in or first Thursday in January, if you want to ask Roland a question, go to our website, put that question in, and we'll read that question while we're uh, that will email us, and we will ask Roland that question.
That's
So,
awesome, man.
but
All right, guys.
excuse me, Cole. Thank you again, brother. Um, we need to try to schedule something here by the end of next year uh, to have you back on, and hopefully we'll have some blue trophies back behind you.
That sounds great, guys. Thanks for having me on, and hope y'all have a very Merry
Cool.
Christmas.
Really
Too,
appreciate it.
brother.
You and your family too, dude.
Thank you.
Thank you.